The whiskey bottle sat on my kitchen counter, like a beautiful lie, catching the late afternoon sun through my window and throwing amber light across the worn linoleum. I stared at it for a good 10 minutes that Mother's Day evening, turning it slowly in my hands, feeling the weight of it, the expensive glass cool against my palms. Macallan 25. I didn't know much about scotch, but I knew enough to recognize that the label alone screamed money my son didn't have. Nathan, who couldn't hold down a job for more than 6 months at a stretch, who'd borrowed $3,000 from me just last year to invest in some cryptocurrency scheme that never panned out, who still owed me money from the year before that, had somehow managed to drop what had to be $600 or $700 on a single bottle of liquor. The card was still sitting next to it, propped against the fruit bowl. To the best mom in the world, you deserve everything. Love, Nathan, and Megan. You deserve everything. Those 3 words sat in my stomach like stones. You really shouldn't have, I'd told him that afternoon when he'd presented it to me with a flourish, like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat. And I meant it in every possible way a person could mean those words. His smile had been thin, practiced, the smile of a salesman trying to close a deal. You deserve it, Mom. For everything you've done for us. Everything. That word again. 36 years of sleepless nights, of working double shifts at Lincoln Elementary School, and then rushing to weekend shifts at the grocery store after his father died of a heart attack at 43. Everything was working 3 jobs to keep the electricity on and food on the table, while he and his sister Emma grew up wearing clothes without holes and shoes that actually fit. Everything was sacrificing my own dreams, my own life, my own happiness to make sure they had opportunities I never got. And what did I get in return? A son who looked at me like I was an ATM machine with a pulse. A son who only called when he needed something. A son who'd grown into a stranger I barely recognized anymore. I'd raised him better than this, or at least I thought I had. Megan had stood beside him during the gift presentation, her arm linked through his, her smile bright and perfect and completely fake. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, her blonde hair styled in those effortless waves that actually took hours at a salon. Everything about her screamed money and privilege, and a kind of cold calculation that made my skin crawl. We wanted to get you something special, she'd said, her voice honey-sweet. Nathan talks about you all the time, about how hard you worked, how much you sacrificed. The way she said sacrificed made it sound like an accusation rather than a compliment. They'd stayed for exactly 47 minutes. I'd timed it without meaning to, watching the clock on my microwave as we made stilted conversation in my living room, Nathan checking his phone every few minutes, Megan's smile never quite reaching her eyes. Then, Nathan had glanced at his watch, made some excuse about dinner reservations they couldn't miss, and they were gone, leaving me alone with my expensive bottle of scotch and a growing sense of unease I couldn't shake. I poured myself 2 fingers that night, neat, the way my late husband Tom used to drink it on special occasions. It burned going down, smooth and expensive and fundamentally wrong. This wasn't a gift. Gifts came from love, from affection, from actually caring about the person receiving them. This was something else entirely. This was groundwork, preparation, the kind of thing you did when you were softening someone up for a bigger ask. I just didn't know what that ask was yet. The phone rang the next morning at 9:15, right in the middle of me grading spelling tests at my kitchen table. Nathan's name flashed on the caller ID, and something in my chest tightened. Hey, Mom. His voice was different from yesterday, flatter, more businesslike. Not the voice of a son calling his mother to chat. Good morning, sweetie. Thank you again for the whiskey. That was very generous. Yeah, well, you deserve it. That word again. So, did you try it yet? The whiskey? I did. Last night. It was very extravagant. Good. That's good. A pause, and I could hear him breathing on the other end, like he was working up to something. Listen, Mom, I wanted to talk to you about something important. Megan and I have been looking at some investment opportunities, really solid stuff, and we thought you might be interested. Your retirement money, it's just sitting there in those old accounts, barely earning anything. We know people, good people, financial advisors, who could triple your returns in just a few years. Nathan, I cut him off, my teacher voice coming out automatically. Firm. No nonsense. Why did you really buy me that whiskey? The pause that followed was longer this time, heavier. What's that supposed to mean? You know exactly what it means. You drop $600 on a bottle of scotch you can't afford, show up for less than an hour, and now you're calling about my retirement accounts. What's going on? Jesus, Mom. His voice shifted, that flat tone giving way to something harder, defensive. Can't I just do something nice for my mother without you turning it into some kind of interrogation? You can, but that's not what this is it? Another pause. When he spoke again, the warmth that had been in his voice yesterday, fake as it was, had completely vanished. You know what? Forget it. Forget I tried to help. I'll call you later when you're in a better mood. The line went silent before I could respond. I sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at Nathan's name on the screen until it faded to black, my heart doing something complicated in my chest. 36 years of raising a child gives you instincts that don't go away. You know when something's wrong the same way you know when they're lying about finishing their homework or sneaking out at night or hiding something they don't want you to see. This feeling was worse than all of those combined. This feeling was alarm bells going off in every corner of my mind, telling me something was very, very wrong. That bottle wasn't a gift. It was bait, and I was the fish they were trying to hook. 3 weeks crawled by before Nathan called again. 3 weeks of silence that stretched like taffy, thin and uncomfortable and wrong. I kept my phone nearby constantly, jumping every time it rang, my heart doing this little skip-thump thing whenever I saw an incoming call. But it was never Nathan. My daughter Emma called twice in that time, her voice bright and cheerful as she chatted about her life in Boston, about the advertising firm where she'd just made junior partner, about the new apartment she and her girlfriend were looking at in Back Bay. She asked how I was doing, actually listened to my answers, laughed at my jokes. Emma had always been the easier child, the one who remembered birthdays without Facebook reminders and actually wanted to spend time with me without ulterior motives. Have you talked to Nathan lately? I asked during her second call, trying to keep my voice casual. Not really. You know how he is. Why? No reason, just wondering. But there was a reason. I couldn't stop thinking about that last conversation, about the way his voice had gone cold when I'd pushed back against his investment pitch. I couldn't stop thinking about that expensive bottle of whiskey still sitting on my counter, 3/4 full. I couldn't pour it down the drain, but I couldn't drink it either. It sat there like evidence of something I couldn't quite name yet. When Nathan finally did call, it was a Tuesday evening in early June. I was folding laundry fresh from the dryer, the phone wedged between my shoulder and ear, my hands working automatically on the warm towels. Mum, we need to talk about your finances. Just like that. No hello, no how are you, no small talk. Straight to business. My hand stilled on the towel I was folding. Excuse me. Your retirement account. Your savings, all that money you've got sitting in those old-fashioned accounts Dad set up 20 years ago. Megan knows people, really good people with connections on Wall Street who could help you get much better returns. You're losing thousands every year just letting it sit there collecting dust. It's not smart, Mom. It's not financially responsible. The way he said, not financially responsible, made my jaw tighten. Like I was a child who didn't know how to manage an allowance. Like I hadn't been supporting him financially for most of his adult life. My money is fine exactly where it is, Nathan. It's really not, though. Do you know what inflation is doing to your buying power? In 10 years, that money will be worth half what it is now, maybe less. You need to be smarter about this. Megan's financial advisor could... I said no. My voice came out sharper than I intended, years of frustration suddenly bubbling to the surface. I appreciate the concern, but I've managed my own money for 53 years. I think I can continue to handle it without advice from Megan's friends. Right, yeah, of course. His tone shifted again, that business-like flatness giving way to something colder, something mean. Always so stubborn. Never let anyone help you with anything. God forbid someone actually tries to make your life better. That's not fair, isn't it? Your whole life you've been like this, pushing people away, refusing help, making everyone feel guilty for not being perfect. Maybe that's why Dad had a heart attack. Maybe the stress of living with you. Nathan Andrew Marks. My voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare use your father's passing to hurt me. Silence on the other end, heavy and thick. I have to go, he said finally. Megan needs me. The line went silent. I stood there in my laundry room, surrounded by half-folded towels, my hands shaking so badly I had to grip the edge of the washing machine to steady myself. That twisting in my gut that had started with the whiskey was getting tighter, harder, turning into something that felt like fear and rage mixed together. My son had just blamed me for his father's passing. My son, whom I had raised, fed, clothed, and loved, had just turned my deepest sorrow into a weapon against me. And for what? Because I wouldn't let him control my money. 2 days later, on Thursday afternoon, I made the mistake that changed everything. Nathan called during my lunch break. I'd just sat down at my kitchen table with a turkey sandwich and a glass of iced tea, grateful for a few minutes of peace between morning classes and afternoon meetings. I put the phone on speaker and set it on the table while I ate, scrolling through emails on my laptop with my free hand. We talked about nothing important for a few minutes. The weather, it was getting hot early this year. His job at the consulting firm, fine, a little boring, but the pay was okay. Some Italian restaurant he and Megan had tried in the city. Overpriced, but the pasta was decent. Surface-level conversation that felt rehearsed and empty, like we were actors reading lines neither of us believed. All right, Mom, I need to run. Got a meeting in 10 minutes. Talk soon, okay? Okay, sweetie. Love you. Yeah, bye. But I didn't hang up. I set the phone down to throw away my sandwich wrapper and grab my iced tea from the counter, planning to end the call when I got back. Except when I came back, when I reached for the phone, I heard voices coming from the speaker. Nathan's voice, and Megan's voice. I froze, my hand hovering over the phone. Did she go for it? Megan's voice was sharp, impatient, nothing like the honey-sweet tone she used when talking to me. No, she shut me down completely. I told you she would. She's too stubborn. Then we don't wait anymore. We move forward without her permission. It's not like we actually need it, Nathan. You're her son. You have access to her accounts through that power of attorney she signed back when your father was sick. My veins turned to ice. I could feel it, spreading through me, freezing me in place. That was 12 years ago, Nathan said. I don't even know if it's still valid. It is. I had Marcus check. My lawyer, she clarified. She never revoked it. Never updated it. She probably doesn't even remember signing it. She trusts you, which makes this almost embarrassingly easy. Nathan laughed. Actually laughed. A sound I'd heard 10,000 times growing up, but now it was different. Twisted. Mean. She's going to lose her mind when she finds out. By then it'll be too late. The transfers will be done. The money will be moved into accounts she can't touch, and honestly, after the way she's treated you your whole life, making you feel guilty for every little thing, never being satisfied with anything you did, she deserves this. She deserves to know what it feels like to lose everything. My hand found the phone. I gripped it so hard my knuckles went white. What about Emma? Nathan asked. She'll notice eventually. Emma's in Boston living her little life with her girlfriend. She doesn't need to know anything until it's already done. And by then, what can she do? We'll have documentation showing your mother's been making erratic financial decisions. We'll have the credit applications, the loan requests, all that groundwork we've been laying, everyone will just assume she's getting senile. Forgetting things, losing track of reality. No one will believe her over us. And if she fights it, then we bury her. We have enough dirt now to make her look completely incompetent. And if that doesn't work, we'll go public with how unstable she is, how she's been harassing us, making wild accusations. By the time we're done, no one will take anything she says seriously. She'll just be another sad old woman who lost her grip on reality. The room was spinning. Actually spinning. I reached out and gripped the edge of my kitchen table with my free hand, trying to anchor myself to something solid. "When do we start?" Nathan asked. "Next week. Marcus is drawing up the transfer paperwork now. Once it's signed, well, once your signature is on it, we can move 40,000 to start. Test the waters. If nobody notices, we go bigger." 40,000? Jesus. It's a drop in the bucket compared to what she's sitting on. Your father's life insurance, her retirement accounts, the house equity. She's got close to $500,000 total, and she's just hoarding it like some kind of dragon. That money should be yours, Nathan. You're her son. You deserve it more than she does. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I ended the call with shaking fingers. For a long moment, I just stood there in my kitchen, the phone clutched in my hand, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might break through. The room felt too small suddenly, the walls pressing in, the air too thick to breathe properly. My son. My son was planning to rob me. My son, who I'd carried for 9 months, who I'd stayed up with through fevers and nightmares, who I'd worked myself to the bone to provide for, was planning to steal everything I had and destroy my reputation in the process. I walked to my bedroom on legs that didn't feel quite steady, pulled out the locked metal box from under my bed where I kept important documents, and started searching. It took me 20 minutes to find it, tucked between old tax returns and my marriage certificate. The power of attorney document, yellowed slightly with age, dated June 15th, 2013. 12 years ago, when Tom was in the hospital dying, when I'd been so consumed with grief and fear that I'd signed whatever the hospital social worker had put in front of me. I, Rhonda Patricia Marks, hereby grant my son, Nathan Andrew Marks, the legal authority to make financial and legal decisions on my behalf in the event that I become incapacitated. My signature at the bottom. Legal, binding, valid. I had completely forgotten about it. Amid the chaos of Tom's passing and the years of hardship that followed, it had just faded from my memory. But Nathan hadn't forgotten, and neither had Megan. I took pictures of every page with my phone, my hands still shaking, then locked the document back in the box. Then I sat on the edge of my bed and let myself have exactly 5 minutes to fall apart. I cried hard, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep in your chest, the kind that makes your whole body shake. I cried for the son I'd lost somewhere along the way. I cried for the boy who once made me Mother's Day cards out of construction paper, pouring genuine meaning into every word he wrote. I cried for my own foolishness, for trusting him, for believing that family truly held any significance. Then I wiped my face, stood up, and got to work. I didn't sleep that night, couldn't even pretend to try. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with every financial document I owned spread out in front of me, like pieces of a puzzle I was finally starting to see. My reading glasses perched on my nose, a pot of coffee slowly going cold beside me. Bank statements going back 5 years, investment portfolio summaries, property deeds, tax returns dating back a decade, credit card statements, insurance policies, everything. At first glance, everything looked normal, routine, the kind of boring financial paperwork that every middle-class American has stuffed in drawers and filing cabinets. But I wasn't looking at first glance anymore. I was looking with the eyes of someone who'd just discovered her own son was planning to rob her blind. I was looking for evidence. At 3:17 in the morning, I found it. A transfer request form from Fidelity, dated May 28th, just 2 weeks ago. A request to move $40,000 from my retirement account into a new investment fund I'd never heard of. The signature at the bottom looked like mine. The loops and curves were right, the way I crossed my T's, the little flourish on the R, but it wasn't my signature. It was close, disturbingly close, but it wasn't mine. My hand started shaking so hard I had to put the paper down flat on the table. $40,000, nearly half my retirement savings. The money I'd scraped together working 3 jobs for 15 years after Tom died. The money that was supposed to keep me from being a burden on my kids in my old age. The money that was supposed to be my safety net. And Nathan had already started stealing it. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers and started taking pictures. Every document, every statement, every scrap of paper that showed what Nathan and Megan were planning, what they'd already started doing. The flash from my phone camera lit up my kitchen in bursts of white light, making everything feel surreal, like I was documenting a crime scene. Which I was, I realized. This was a crime scene. My own kitchen had become a crime scene. When I'd photographed everything twice, just to be sure, I called Larry. He answered on the 5th ring, his voice thick with sleep and confusion. "Rhonda." "What? It's 3:30 in the morning. Are you okay? Is something wrong?" "Everything's wrong. I need your help. Can you come over?" "Now?" "Now. Please, Larry. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." There was a pause, and I could hear him moving around, probably getting out of bed. "Give me 20 minutes. He showed up in 18 minutes, wearing sweatpants and a rumpled t-shirt, his grey hair sticking up in about 5 different directions. Larry had been my neighbour for 20 years, since before Tom died, since the kids were still in high school. We'd shared backyard barbecues and snow removal duties and complaints about property taxes. We'd helped each other through divorce, him and widowhood, me. He had a mind like a steel trap from 30 years working as an insurance adjuster, and a daughter who was a lawyer in Chicago. I told him everything, the Mother's Day whiskey, the phone calls, the overheard conversation, the forged signature on the transfer request. All of it spilled out of me in a rush, the words tripping over themselves in their hurry to get out. He listened without interrupting, his expression getting darker and darker as I talked. When I finally ran out of words, he was quiet for a long time, just sitting across from me at my kitchen table, looking at all the documents spread out between us. "This is bad, Rhonda," he said finally. "This is really bad." "I know." "No, I don't think you do. This isn't just family drama. This isn't just your son being a disappointment. This is fraud, forgery, identity theft, financial exploitation. These are actual crimes with actual prison time attached to them." "Good," I said, and I meant it. "Then he should go to prison." Larry shook his head slowly. "You need a lawyer, not just any lawyer, someone who specializes in elder financial abuse." "I'm 53 years old," I said sharply. "I'm not elderly." "In legal terms, for this kind of case, you're close enough. And that's actually a good thing, Rhonda. Elder financial abuse gets taken more seriously than regular fraud. There are special protections, special penalties. Trust me on this. Can you come over later today? Help me organize everything." He checked his watch. "I'll be back at 9. Try to get some sleep." But I didn't sleep. I made more coffee and kept going through documents, finding more evidence with every hour that passed. Credit inquiries I'd never authorized. 3 separate credit card applications in my name that I'd never submitted. A home equity loan request from last month that I'd known nothing about. Thankfully denied because I'd accidentally frozen my credit last year after reading an article about identity theft. Accidentally. The irony wasn't lost on me. The sun was coming up when I found the next piece of evidence. An email buried in my spam folder from 3 weeks ago. A confirmation from some investment firm in Delaware that I'd never heard of. Thank you for opening an account with Pinnacle Wealth Management. Your initial deposit of $15,000 has been processed. $15,000. I checked my bank statements frantically, hands shaking, spilling cold coffee across the table. There it was, a withdrawal dated 3 weeks ago, labeled Investment Transfer, PWM. They hadn't just attempted to steal from me. They'd already succeeded. $15,000 was already gone. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The air went out of my lungs and I had to grip the edge of the table to stay upright. This wasn't theoretical anymore. This wasn't just plans and schemes I'd overheard. They'd actually done it. They'd actually stolen from me. By the time Larry showed up at 8:45, early, carrying a box of donuts from the bakery on Main Street, I'd filled an entire legal pad with notes and sorted the documents into careful piles. I'd also cried twice more and thrown up once from the sheer stress of it all. Jesus, Rhonda, did you sleep at all? No, coffee? God, yes. He took one look at my face and set the donuts down. What else did you find? I showed him the email, the bank statement, the withdrawal I'd somehow missed. They already took $15,000, I said, my voice breaking. It's already gone, Larry. They've already stolen from me. He sat down hard in the chair across from me. Okay, this is actually good. How is this good? Because now it's not attempted fraud, it's actual fraud, a completed crime. That makes the case stronger, not weaker. We have proof they actually stole money, not just that they tried to. I want that money back. We'll get it back, all of it, plus damages, plus their freedom. I promise you, Rhonda, we're going to bury them. We spent the next 6 hours going through everything systematically. Larry had brought his laptop and a scanner, and we created digital copies of every piece of evidence, organizing them into folders with clear labels, timeline of suspicious activity, forged documents, unauthorized credit applications, completed thefts, overheard conversations. I'd written out everything I remembered from that phone call, every word I could recall. There's more, I said around 2 in the afternoon, pulling out a folder I'd set aside. Look at this. My credit report. I'd pulled it that morning from all 3 bureaus while Larry was getting donuts. 3 new hard inquiries in the past month. Cards I'd never applied for. A loan application I'd never submitted. My credit score had dropped 40 points. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what I found when I dug deeper into the credit card applications. One had been approved, a Visa card with a $15,000 limit, issued in my name to an address I'd never lived at, and according to the statement I'd finally tracked down online, it had already been maxed out. They've racked up 15 grand in credit card debt in my name, I said, my voice flat, on top of the 15,000 they already stole. That's $30,000. Larry leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his hair. They're not just stealing from you, they're building a case to destroy you. They're laying groundwork to make you look incompetent, financially irresponsible, someone who can't be trusted to manage their own affairs. So when they take my money, no one will believe me when I say I didn't authorize it. Exactly. They'll point to all these credit applications, these loan requests, this erratic behavior, and say you've been having problems for months, maybe years, that you're getting confused, forgetful, that you need someone to take over your finances for your own protection. I felt sick, actually physically sick. That's why the whiskey. That's why Nathan's been calling, trying to talk to me about investments. He was building a narrative, a very convincing one. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at my quiet suburban street. Kids riding bikes, a neighbor mowing his lawn, Mrs. Patterson across the street watering her roses. Normal life happening all around me while my world was collapsing inward. My own son, I whispered. My own flesh and kin. I was the one who changed his diapers. I stayed up with him when he had nightmares. I taught him to ride a bike, to tie his shoes, to be a decent human being. Or at least I tried to teach him that last one. I'm sorry, Rhonda, I really am. I wish I could tell you this was all a misunderstanding, but don't. I turned to face him. Don't apologize and don't feel sorry for me. I don't want sympathy. I want that lawyer's phone number. And I want Nathan and Megan to pay for every single thing they've done. He smiled slightly. That's the Rhonda I know. He pulled out his phone and called his daughter in Chicago. I heard one side of the conversation. Yes, it's an emergency. Yes, I know it's the middle of her workday. Just give me the number. There was a long pause while he listened. Then he grabbed my legal pad and started writing. Her name is Patricia Donnelly, Larry said after he hung up. She's here in the city, specializes in elder exploitation and financial fraud. Catherine says she's the best. Aggressive, smart, doesn't lose. She's also expensive, $300 an hour, but worth every penny. I don't care if she costs $500 an hour. I don't care if she costs $1,000. Set it up. He made the call right there, talking to Patricia's secretary, explaining the situation in broad terms without giving too many details. The secretary said she had an opening Monday morning at 10. Monday's too far away, I said when he hung up. That's 3 days. What if they try to take more money between now and then? Then we'll have more evidence. But let's make sure they can't. Call your bank right now. Every account. Put freezes on everything. I spent the next hour on the phone with my bank, my investment company, my credit card companies. I explained the situation over and over. Someone is trying to steal from me. I need fraud alerts. I need freezes. I need to make it impossible for anyone to access my accounts without my physical presence and 3 forms of ID. Some representatives were helpful. Others were skeptical. One older man at my investment firm actually said, "Ma'am, are you sure your son isn't just trying to help you? Sometimes as we get older, we need family assistance with these matters." "I'm 53, I snapped, not 83. And no, he's not helping, he's stealing. Put the freeze on my account or transfer me to someone who will." He put the freeze on. By the time I finished, it was after 5. Larry had ordered pizza and we sat at my kitchen table eating straight from the box, too exhausted to bother with plates. "You should try to sleep tonight," he said. "Get some rest before Monday." "I don't think I can." "Try anyway. You need to be sharp when you meet with Patricia. Clear-headed. Ready to fight." I spent the weekend in a kind of controlled panic, moving through my house like a general preparing for war. I changed every password on every account. Banking, email, credit cards, utilities, everything. I wrote all the new passwords down in a notebook I kept locked in my safe. I called my bank again and put additional alerts on every single account, explaining that someone was trying to access my money without authorization. Saturday afternoon, I drove to the police station to file a formal report. The desk sergeant was maybe 25, with the kind of baby face that made him look like he should still be in college. He listened to my story with an expression that went from concern to skeptical to something that looked uncomfortably like pity. "Ma'am, are you sure this isn't just a misunderstanding? Maybe your son was trying to help." "I'm sure," I said, keeping my voice level, despite wanting to scream. "I have documented evidence of forgery, identity theft, and fraud. $30,000 has been stolen from me. I need to file a report." "And you said this is your son doing this?" "Yes." "Your own son?" "Yes." He sighed like I was wasting his time. "Ma'am, in my experience, family financial disputes are usually just misunderstandings. Maybe you should talk to him first before we involve law enforcement. File the report." I put both hands on his desk and leaned forward. "I'm not asking for your life advice or your opinion on family dynamics. I'm reporting multiple felonies. You can file the report, or I can file a complaint about an officer refusing to take a crime report. Your choice." He filed the report. Reluctantly. Like he was doing me some kind of favor. I walked out of the police station shaking with rage. Even the cops didn't believe me. Even with evidence, with documents, with proof, they treated me like I was an overreacting mother instead of a crime victim. That was going to change. I was going to make sure of it. Monday morning, I sat across from Patricia Donnelly in her downtown office on the 14th floor of a glass tower. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 45, with short dark hair streaked with silver and eyes that missed nothing. Her office was all clean lines and expensive furniture, diplomas from fancy schools on the walls, Yale undergrad, Harvard Law. She was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, and she radiated competence and controlled aggression. I liked her immediately. I told her everything, the whole story, start to finish, while she took notes in precise handwriting on a yellow legal pad. I showed her the documents, the photographs, the credit report, the bank statements showing the stolen money, everything. I talked for 45 minutes straight, and she didn't interrupt once, just listened and wrote and occasionally asked a clarifying question. When I finished, she leaned back in her leather chair and studied me for a long moment. "What do you want, Mrs. Marks?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what's your goal here? Justice? Revenge? Your money back? To send your son to prison? To just stop him from stealing?" All of these are valid goals, but they require different approaches, different strategies. I need to know what you want so I can get it for you. "All of it," I said without hesitation. "I want all of it." She smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator spotting prey. "Good, because I think we can get you all of it. But it's going to require patience, strategy, and you're going to have to let them make the next move." "What?" "Right now they've attempted fraud and succeeded in stealing $30,000. That's serious, but it's not devastating. We need them to go bigger. We need them to show their full hand. Right now they could claim mistakes, misunderstandings, say they thought they had your permission. We need them to dig themselves in so deep there's no possible excuse, no way out. Which means we need to set a trap. A trap. Yes, we freeze your assets legally, through proper channels, citing concerns about unauthorized access. But we make it look like you're just being stubborn, just being difficult, just being your usual self. We don't let them know you're on to them. We let them keep planning, keep scheming, let them think they're winning. And when they make their big move, when they really try to take everything, we destroy them, I finished. Patricia nodded slowly. We destroy them completely, criminally, financially, socially. We don't just win, we annihilate them, but only if you're ready for that. Only if you understand that once we start down this path, there's no going back. Your relationship with your son will be over. Your family will be fractured permanently. You need to be absolutely certain this is what you want. I thought about Nathan's voice on that phone call, about Megan saying I deserved this, about the forged signature and the stolen money and the credit cards maxed out in my name, about 30 years of sacrifice and love thrown back in my face. "I'm certain," I said. "Burn it all down." Patricia's smile widened. "Then let's get to work." 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of playing a role, of pretending I didn't know what my son and his wife were planning. 3 weeks of answering Nathan's occasional texts with brief, neutral responses. "Fine. Busy with work. Talk soon." Patricia had been clear. Act normal but distant. Don't give them anything, but don't make them suspicious either. They needed to think I was just being my usual stubborn self, not that I'd uncovered their entire scheme. We'd frozen my assets through proper legal channels, putting everything into a trust that required Patricia's co-signature to access. But we'd done it quietly, without fanfare. On the surface, everything looked the same. Meanwhile, Patricia and her investigator, a former FBI agent named Tom Wilson, were building our case. Bank records, phone records where legally obtainable, documentation of every suspicious activity. They were building an airtight case that would bury Nathan and Megan so deep they'd never dig their way out. They're going to make a move soon, Patricia told me during our weekly meeting. They're getting frustrated. My sources say Nathan's been calling the bank, trying to initiate transfers, but he's being stonewalled by the new security protocols. He doesn't know why yet, but he's getting desperate. Good, I said. Desperate people make mistakes. We just need to be patient. But patience had never been my strong suit. The call came on a Wednesday evening. I was grading papers at my kitchen table, red pen in hand, when my phone lit up with Nathan's name. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hello? Mom. His voice was tight, stressed. We need to talk, in person, tomorrow. Tomorrow's not good. I have meetings after school. Make time. This is important. What's this about? I'd rather discuss it in person. Can you meet me at that coffee shop on Maple Street? 2 o'clock. I could feel my heart rate picking up. I suppose I could make that work. Good. See you then. He hung up without saying goodbye. I immediately called Patricia. He wants to meet tomorrow, 2 o'clock at the coffee shop on Maple Street. Perfect. Wear a wire. What? Tom will set you up tomorrow morning. We need to record whatever he says. If he tries to coerce you, threaten you, or admits to anything, we'll have it on tape. This could be the break we've been waiting for. The next day, I sat in the coffee shop wearing a device no bigger than a button under my blouse, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea I couldn't drink. My stomach was in knots. Nathan walked in at 2:07, looking harried. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled. He sat down across from me without ordering anything. Mom, I don't know what's going on, but someone's frozen your accounts. I've been trying to help you move some investments around, and I keep hitting walls. What did you do? I looked at him steadily. I didn't do anything, Nathan. Why would you be trying to access my accounts? His eyes narrowed. Because you gave me power of attorney. Remember, you wanted me to help manage things. That was for if I became incapacitated. I'm not incapacitated. You're not exactly making smart choices either. Look, Mum, I'm trying to help you here, but you're making it impossible. If you don't start being more cooperative, I'm going to have to take legal action to have you declared incompetent. There it was, the threat. You'd do that, you'd try to have your own mother declared incompetent. If that's what it takes to protect you from yourself, yes. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Get a good lawyer, Nathan. You're going to need one. I walked out, my hands shaking but my head held high. 3 days later, Nathan and Megan filed a petition in court to have me declared legally incompetent and to grant Nathan full control over my finances. They cited the credit applications, the loan requests, the erratic behavior they'd so carefully manufactured. Patricia smiled when she saw the petition. They just handed us everything we need. Now we file our countersuit and bury them. While our legal battle was gearing up, while Patricia and Tom were building the case that would destroy Nathan and Megan's lives, I discovered something interesting. Larry found it, actually, during one of his deep dives through social media that had become part of our evening routine. Look at this, he said, turning his laptop toward me. We were sitting in my living room, him on the couch with his computer, me in my armchair with a glass of wine I wasn't really drinking. Megan's planning some kind of massive charity event. I leaned forward to see the screen. A Facebook event page, professionally designed with glossy photos and elegant fonts. An evening of elegance for children's education, it proclaimed in script that probably cost someone $200 to design. The date was 6 weeks away. The venue was the Grand Hotel downtown, one of those historic buildings with marble floors and crystal chandeliers that charged $5,000 just to rent the ballroom. The ticket price made me choke on my wine. $500 per person. She's invited everyone, Larry said, scrolling through the guest list. Local politicians, business owners, the mayor's on here, half the city council, society people whose names I recognize from the newspaper. She's positioning herself as some kind of philanthropist. I stared at Megan's profile picture on the event page. She was wearing an evening gown in the photo, diamonds at her throat, her smile radiant and warm. The caption underneath read, "Join me in supporting our community's children and their educational future." The irony wasn't lost on me. Megan, who'd never worked a day in education, who'd married Nathan specifically for his access to my money, pretending to care about children's futures. "How much is she raising, supposedly?" I asked. Larry clicked through to another page. Says here the goal is $50,000 for local schools. Scholarships, classroom supplies, after-school programs. And how much is she keeping for herself? Event organizers typically take 20 to 30% for costs, so she's probably pocketing 15 grand, minimum. Not bad for a night's work. I sat back in my chair, an idea beginning to form in my mind. A beautiful, terrible, perfect idea. "Patricia," I said during our next meeting, leaning forward in her expensive office chair, "what if we didn't wait for the court date? What if we went public first?" She raised an eyebrow. She did that a lot, I'd noticed. One perfectly shaped eyebrow lifting in a way that conveyed both interest and skepticism. "What did you have in mind?" I told her about Megan's charity gala, about the influential guests who would be there, about the perfect opportunity to expose everything in front of people who mattered, people who could destroy Megan's carefully constructed reputation with a single disapproving look. Patricia leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled under her chin, that predatory smile slowly spreading across her face. "That's actually brilliant. High-profile public event, lots of witnesses, probable media coverage for the charity angle. If we do this right, we could destroy their credibility before they even get to court. Make it impossible for a jury to see them as anything other than criminals." "How do we do it right?" "We need ironclad proof, documents, recordings, expert testimony ready to back up every claim. We need to make it impossible for them to deny or spin anything. And we need to make sure it's all legal, no slander, no libel, just provable facts presented in a public forum." "Can we do all that in 6 weeks?" "We can try. Tom, what do you think?" She picked up her phone and called her investigator, putting him on speaker. "It's tight," Tom's gravelly voice came through. "But doable. We'd need to accelerate the timeline. Get Dorothy Perkins deposed this week. Compile all the financial evidence into a presentation format. Maybe hire a forensic accountant to walk through the numbers, make it crystal clear what they did. And we'd need to secure Rhonda a spot to speak at this event." "How do we do that?" I asked. "Most charity galas have an open mic portion," Patricia said. "Donors sharing why they support the cause, that sort of thing. We buy you a ticket under a fake name, you show up, you wait for your moment, and then you take the microphone and tell the truth." "They'll try to stop me." "Let them try. We'll have it all on video. We'll have lawyers present as witnesses. If they try to physically remove you or prevent you from speaking, that's another charge we can add to the list." Over the next 6 weeks, I watched my normal life disappear completely. I still went to work, still taught my third graders, still graded papers, and attended faculty meetings. But every spare moment was consumed by preparation. Patricia's team worked around the clock. Tom Wilson tracked down 3 more victims of Nathan's schemes, elderly clients from his previous jobs who'd had similar experiences with mysterious account transfers and forged signatures. 2 agreed to provide written statements. 1, a 90-year-old former banker named Gerald Foster, agreed to appear on video testimony. "Your son stole $47,000 from me," Gerald said in the video, his voice steady despite his age. "Forged my signature on transfer documents. When I discovered it and confronted him, he tried to convince me I'd authorized the transfers and simply forgotten. Said I was getting old, confused. But I wasn't confused. I knew exactly what he'd done. The only reason I didn't press charges was because his company paid me back and promised he'd be fired. I wish now I'd sent him to prison. Maybe he wouldn't have kept doing this to other people." Patricia hired a forensic accountant named Jennifer Wu. a tiny woman with thick glasses and a mind like a computer. She spent 2 weeks analyzing every financial transaction, every forged signature, every fraudulent application. Her report was 73 pages long and absolutely devastating. The pattern is clear, she explained during a prep session. This wasn't opportunistic crime. This was systematic, planned financial exploitation. They studied your finances for months, identified the best access points, created a paper trail to support claims of incompetence, then began extracting money in amounts small enough to potentially go unnoticed. If you hadn't caught that phone call, Mrs. Marks, they might have taken everything before you realized what was happening. How much were they trying to take total? I asked. Based on the documents we've found and the transfer requests that were blocked, I estimate they were planning to extract approximately $470,000 over the course of 18 months, your entire net worth. I felt sick hearing the number. My entire life's work, every sacrifice, every double shift, every weekend I'd worked instead of resting, all of it measured in a number these people had planned to steal. We're going to destroy them, Patricia said, seeing my face, completely and utterly. I know. 2 weeks before the gala, Larry and I went shopping for a new dress. I hadn't bought a formal dress in 15 years, and I felt ridiculous trying on evening gowns in department store dressing rooms. You need to look the part, Larry insisted, confident, successful, someone who clearly has her act together. The opposite of the confused, senile woman they're trying to paint you as. We settled on a simple black dress with clean lines, elegant without being flashy, professional without being dowdy, the kind of dress that commanded respect. You look like someone who takes no prisoners, Larry said approvingly. Good, because I don't. The week before the gala, Emma called. Her timing was terrible, as always. Mum, what's going on? Nathan called me last night, absolutely ranting about you refusing to sign some paperwork and making his life difficult. He sounded really upset, like genuinely distressed. He said you've been acting strange, making poor financial decisions, and he's worried about you. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Honey, I can't explain everything right now, but I need you to trust me. Your brother isn't who you think he is. What does that mean? You're freaking me out. It means some things are going to come out very soon, and when they do, I need you to keep an open mind. Can you do that for me? She was quiet for a long moment. You're scaring me, Mom. I know, I'm sorry. I love you, Emma. Remember that. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, remember that I love you and everything I'm doing is necessary. Okay? Okay, she said slowly. But Mom, I have to go, sweetie. I'll call you soon. I promise. I hung up before she could ask more questions, before I could break down and tell her everything. The night before the gala, I couldn't sleep at all. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through the speech Patricia and I had crafted together. Every word memorized, every pause planned, every fact verified and re-verified. This was it. Tomorrow night, I would stand in front of hundreds of people and expose my son for what he was. Tomorrow night, I would destroy the life he'd tried to build on the ashes of mine. Tomorrow night, I would win. At 7 the next morning, Patricia called. Everything's ready. Tom's got 5 lawyers from my firm positioned throughout the venue, all with recording equipment. The local news channel is sending a camera crew. They think they're just covering a charity event. Jennifer Wu will be there with her laptop, ready to display the financial evidence on the venue screens if needed. And I've got a backup plan in case Megan tries to cut the power or shut you down. What's the backup plan? Live streaming to 3 different social media platforms simultaneously. If they try to silence you physically, 10,000 people will be watching online. Trust me, Rhonda, we've thought of everything. I'm terrified, I admitted. Good. That means you understand the stakes, but you're also ready. You're going to be amazing. Just remember, stick to the facts, stay calm, and let them hang themselves with their own reactions. That evening, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, applying makeup with hands that wouldn't quite stay steady. I'd bought new makeup for this, watched YouTube tutorials on how to look confident and professional. The woman staring back at me looked different from the exhausted school teacher I'd been seeing in this mirror for weeks. She looked powerful, determined, dangerous. Larry picked me up at 7. He was wearing a suit I'd never seen before, looking uncomfortable but determined. "You ready for this?" he asked as we drove downtown. "I've been ready for 6 weeks. You know there's no going back after tonight, right? Once you do this, that's it. Your relationship with Nathan is over, forever. Are you absolutely certain this is what you want?" I thought about that phone call, about Nathan's laugh when Megan said I deserved this, about $30,000 stolen and $400,000 more they'd planned to take, about the forged signatures and the credit card debt and the systematic destruction of everything I'd built. "It's already over," I said. "It's been over since he decided to steal from me. I'm just making it official." 2 days before the gala, Patricia called me into her office for a final strategy session. "Here's how this is going to work," she said, spreading documents across her conference table. "You're going to speak during the open mic portion of the evening. Most charity galas have a time where donors can share why they support the cause. You're going to use that time. What do I say? The truth, all of it, but you need to be calm, factual, unemotional. You present the evidence like you're teaching a class, which you're good at. No anger, no accusations, just facts. Here's your talking points." She handed me a carefully prepared outline. I read through it, my hand starting to shake. "This is going to destroy them," I said. "That's the idea. But Rhonda, you need to be prepared for the backlash. Nathan is your son. People are going to judge you for this. Some will say you should have handled it privately. Let them judge. He tried to rob me and destroy my reputation. He deserves everything that's coming. Just making sure you're ready." I practiced my speech for 2 days straight, in front of the mirror, in front of Larry, recording myself and playing it back until I had every word, every inflection exactly right. This had to be perfect. The morning of the gala, Emma called. "Mom, what's going on? Nathan called me last night ranting about you refusing to sign some paperwork and making his life difficult. He sounded really upset." I closed my eyes. "Honey, I can't explain everything right now, but I need you to trust me. Your brother isn't who you think he is." "What does that mean?" "It means some things are going to come out very soon, and I need you to keep an open mind. Can you do that for me?" She was quiet for a moment. "You're scaring me." "I know. I'm sorry. I love you, Emma. Remember that." That evening, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, putting on makeup with hands that wouldn't quite stay steady. I'd bought a new dress for the occasion. Simple, elegant, black. The kind of dress that commanded respect. Larry picked me up at 7. Patricia was meeting us there. "You ready for this?" Larry asked as we drove downtown. "I've been ready for 6 weeks. You know there's no going back after tonight, right? Once you do this, that's it. Your relationship with Nathan is over. It's already over. It's been over since he decided to steal from me. I'm just making it official." The Grand Hotel ballroom was everything I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, women in designer gowns, men in tuxedos, a string quartet playing in the corner, waiters circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more per bite than my school cafeteria spent on an entire meal. I saw Megan almost immediately. She was holding court near the silent auction tables, stunning in a red gown, laughing at something a city councilman was saying. Nathan stood beside her in a perfectly tailored tux, his hand on her lower back, playing the role of devoted husband. Neither of them saw me come in. "There's Patricia," Larry said, nodding toward the bar. She was nursing a glass of wine, looking professional in a navy suit. I made my way over to her, keeping my head down, trying not to be noticed. Everything's set, she said quietly. The AV guy knows to put your presentation on the screens when you start speaking. The local news channel sent a camera crew. They think they're just covering the charity event. And I have 5 lawyers from my firm scattered around the room, recording everything on their phones. Whatever happens tonight, we'll have documentation. When do I go up? After dinner, during the donor appreciation portion. Megan's scheduled to speak first, then they'll open it up. That's your moment. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the string quartet. Dinner was served at 8. I sat at a table near the back with Larry and Patricia, picking at my salmon and asparagus, my stomach too twisted to actually eat anything. Around us, hundreds of wealthy people laughed and chatted, completely unaware that their elegant evening was about to explode. At 9:15, Megan took the microphone at the front of the room. Good evening, everyone. Her voice was bright, practiced. I'm so thrilled to see such an amazing turnout for such an important cause. As many of you know, I've always been passionate about education. She talked for 10 minutes about the importance of investing in children's futures, about the schools that would benefit from tonight's donations, about her own commitment to making a difference. She was polished, charming, perfect. The audience ate it up. And now, she said, wrapping up, I'd love to hear from some of our generous donors. If anyone would like to share why they support this cause, please come on up. This was it. I stood up, smoothing my dress, and started walking toward the front. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me. I heard Megan's sharp intake of breath as she recognized me. I saw Nathan's face go white. Mom? Nathan's voice carried across the ballroom. What are you doing here? I didn't answer. I just kept walking until I reached the microphone. Megan stepped aside, her smile frozen on her face, her eyes full of panic. Good evening, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. My name is Rhonda Marks, and I'm here to talk to you about theft, fraud, and betrayal. The ballroom went completely silent. I'm a school teacher, I continued. I've spent 30 years educating children at Lincoln Elementary. I work hard, I pay my taxes, and I raised 2 kids on my own after my husband died. One of those kids is standing right over there. I pointed at Nathan. Every head in the room swiveled toward him. That's my son, Nathan Marks, and that's his wife, Megan, who organized this lovely event tonight. They seem like a successful young couple, don't they? Charitable, caring, the kind of people you'd want in your community. I paused, looking around the room. They're also thieves. Megan made a strangled sound. Nathan started moving toward me, but 2 of Patricia's lawyers stepped into his path. 6 weeks ago, I discovered that my son and daughter-in-law have been systematically attempting to steal my life savings. They've forged my signature on financial documents. They've opened credit cards in my name. They've filed false applications for loans I never authorized. They've tried to use a 12-year-old power of attorney, meant only for medical emergencies, to drain my retirement accounts. Behind me, the presentation screens lit up. Bank documents, credit applications, the forged signature on the transfer request, shown side by side with my real signature. But it gets worse, I said. When I caught them, when I tried to protect myself, they filed a legal petition to have me declared incompetent. They claimed I was senile, forgetful, unable to manage my own affairs. They manufactured evidence of erratic behavior, credit applications they themselves had filed in my name to support their case. More documents appeared on the screens. The competency petition, the fraudulent credit applications, phone records showing calls to my bank from Nathan's number. They planned to take everything from me, my savings, my home, my dignity, and they planned to do it by destroying my reputation, by making everyone believe I was losing my mind. I turned to look directly at Nathan and Megan. They tried to make me a victim, but I'm not a victim, I'm a fighter. The room erupted, voices overlapping, people standing up, camera flashes going off. The news crew pushed forward, their camera trained on Nathan and Megan. Nathan was shouting something. but I couldn't hear it over the chaos. Megan's face had gone from white to red, her carefully constructed facade completely shattered. I have documentation of everything, I continued into the microphone, my voice cutting through the noise. Every forged signature, every fraudulent application, every attempt to steal from me. And I've filed charges with the district attorney's office, criminal charges, for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and elder financial abuse. Patricia stepped up beside me, taking the microphone. I'm Patricia Donnelly, Mrs. Marks's attorney. Everything she's said tonight is documented and true. We have bank records, expert testimony, and recorded conversations proving the fraud. Mr. Marks and Mrs. Marks are facing multiple felony charges. We expect arrests within the week. Security guards were moving toward Nathan and Megan now. The event organizers, realizing their charity gala had turned into a crime scene, were trying to restore order, but I wasn't done. I want everyone here to know something, I said, taking the microphone back. I loved my son. I sacrificed everything for him. I worked myself to exhaustion to give him opportunities I never had, and this is how he repaid me, by treating me like a bank account to be raided, by trying to destroy me. My voice cracked, just slightly, and I let it. Let them see the emotion beneath the facts. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. Your parents, your grandparents, anyone who trusts their family with their financial security. Don't let it happen to them. Pay attention, ask questions, protect the people you love. I set the microphone down and walked off the stage. The ballroom exploded again, but I didn't look back. I just kept walking, head high, toward the exit where Larry was waiting for me. That was incredible, he said. That was necessary, I corrected. Behind us, I could hear Megan screaming at Nathan, hear Nathan trying to explain to security guards that this was all a misunderstanding, hear the news reporter asking questions they couldn't answer. I'd won. The arrest came 5 days later. I wasn't there to see it, but Larry called me immediately. They just took Nathan and Megan into custody. The DA filed 8 counts against each of them: fraud, forgery, identity theft, attempted elder abuse. Patricia says with the evidence you've gathered, they're looking at 5 to 10 years. Each. I sat down heavily on my couch. Good. Are you okay? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. The media coverage was extensive. Society Wife's Charity Scam, read one headline. Son attempts to steal mother's life savings, read another. The video from the gala went viral. Millions of views across social media. I became a minor celebrity, the school teacher who fought back against her own child. Emma flew in from Boston 2 days after the arrests. She cried when she saw me, hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. I can't believe Nathan did this. I can't believe I didn't see it. He hid it well, I said. That's what made him dangerous. Are you really going to let them go to prison? Your own son? I pulled back, looking at her seriously. He made his choices, Emma. He chose money over his mother. He chose greed over love. Those choices have consequences. But he's still your son, our brother. No, I said firmly. He stopped being my son when he forged my signature and tried to steal my future. He's a criminal now, nothing more.